Hello, everybody. Welcome to Grow Big TV. Thank you for coming tonight. We have Dr. Paula Ruffin, and I'm sorry I have a cold, so you may hear me sniffling a little bit. I've been sick the past couple days. Go figure. I feel like I am always sick. It's getting a little old. I can tell you that. So, tonight we have a special guest who is Dr. Paula Ruffin. We're going to be talking about the health benefits of chestnuts, and I'm kind of really interested in this because I'm really interested in gut health in general because I have a lot of stomach issues. So that's really cool. So I want to thank you guys for coming in and hanging out with us tonight. And the first 50 people in here tonight is going to win one of these suckers. So share us out. Share us out as many as you can. This is our Grow Big TV magnet. So you'll get one if we get 50 people in here. And I'll do like a number countdown or something as soon as we hit 50. So share us out. Okay. What else? I haven't been doing a whole lot of gardening, but I have bought a lot of seeds. So I have a lot of that coming in the mail as of recently. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to go ahead and go through the list and just, welcome everybody to the show. So thank you for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. The Wickshire Project. Thank you for coming in, Billy. Urban Harvest. Gil at Camp Hatton Family Compound. Thank you so much. Kaylin Strain. Seth Fairbrick Studio. Thank you so much. Bill is here. Thank you so much. Of course, Dr. Paula Ruffin is in the house. Thank you so much. Kaylin Strain. Always a pleasure. Susan Gullett, thank you for coming in. Laura Larson, thank you so much. Jaden, it's a pleasure. Denise, Uncle Al, Mike's Chaotic Gardening. Who else? Purple Tea Bear, of course, my number one fan, Ginger Ninja. Thank you so much. Happy Mac, built on a rock. I almost said built on a Mac. That wouldn't have made sense. Wildlife, thank you for coming in. Cheryl Watson. And who else? Kimberly Gila. Thank you guys for coming in. I appreciate you. So let's go ahead and bring my guest up. And then we will have a wonderful conversation about gut health and chestnuts because it's very important for your stomach and health benefits. Sorry, guys. I can barely breathe. I'm trying here. Okay, here she is.
Hey, how's everybody doing?
Wonderful. Please, y'all, make sure you share us out. And if you haven't already, please go over to Dr. Paula Ruffin's YouTube page and subscribe. Last time I heard she is looking for 1,000 subscribers. So please go over there and help her out. Oh my gosh,
really
man.
Appreciate
I'm sorry. And you know what? All this being sick and everything could be linked to my gut health. I am not doing very well. I seriously, okay. So I was sick a little bit before my son's birthday. Well, my son's birthday was November 16th. So as of right now, I feel like I have seriously been sick for an entire month, a little over a month, and I'm getting real sick of it. I am also extremely stubborn and refuse to get put on antibiotics because why? It's not good for your gut health. So I refuse. So I am repeating the same patterns over and over again because I refuse to go to the doctor. I'm not dying or anything, but it's like I refuse to get an antibiotic. So there's that. All right.
Well, that's a great point too. If I can just jump in for a sec, because
Sure.
people get a sniffle and they run off to antibiotics, which wipes out your gut health. And then people are like, "Oh my God, it was a miracle! It helped." But then I got sick 3 days after I went off the antibiotic. Yeah, because you just wiped out everything that you needed to protect yourself. So the antibiotic, while you're on it, it kills anything else coming in, but then it cleans you out so that you have no protection anymore. So I am actually in favor of you suffering because we're going to fix you. We're going to get it all good.
Ooh, I like that. I want to get fixed. I'm tired of this crap, man.
I
It
bet.
seems like every year, as soon as my son goes to school, I fear it. I fear him going to school because I know he's going to do. Last year, it was the plague of the pink eye. Like I had pink eye for 3 months. My son touches stuff and he doesn't know any better. He doesn't wipe off his hands or whatever. And then he loves to touch mom. And what
Of
happens?
course.
I get pink eye. Thank God that has not happened this year yet. Thank God.
Well,
It's
in
just
the same respect too, that we say we get sick and kids are petri dishes and they want to touch us and we touch our face and they touch our face. This is how we build immunity, is by touching each other and getting close. But when there's a weakness there, it does work that same way. So if we can flip that around for you and say, okay, what do we have to do so that when you're sharing those germs back and forth and all that bacteria, it's actually building both of you, right? Because I think you told me before that he gets sick a lot too, doesn't he?
yeah, he has been ever since he's hit school. But up until then, he wasn't sick at all. Like
Yeah.
rarely. I mean, and now that he's in school, he's sick, which is fine. I think if it is building up his immune system, but ear infections and stuff are just not. It's not nice. And
Yeah.
he's already had several antibiotics already. And it irritates me because
Mhm.
they put him on amoxicillin, which is the number one
Super
go-to
strong.
for ear infections,
Yeah.
and it never works. And then we have to go to something stronger. So he gets like a double dose of antibiotics. It's just
Just keeps
frustrating.
wiping them out. And then
Mhm.
eventually they'll put them on steroids if they haven't already. So and it's a when you think about those treatments, those are like blanket treatments. They're a one size fits all treatment and we're not all one size. So what is it that we need to do to build you guys up?
Yeah. Um, I have been on immune. I have a compromised immune system anyway. But I used to take a bunch of stuff, echinacea. I used to take echinacea and golden seal quite often, but you can't take it all the time because then your body gets used to it and then it's no good to you anymore.
Yeah.
So I think I need to start doing that again. Holy crap. I'm tired of this.
Well, and the number one nutrient to take, if I always said, if you put a gun to my head and said, no, I only want to take one, which one am I going to take? And I'm going to tell you it's vitamin D, because we just don't get enough of it. And even when we do, I'm outside all summer long and I don't use sunscreen and my vitamin D is still only about 55. It really should be up over 75.
Yeah,
So
I guarantee you it's my vitamin D.
yeah,
Yeah.
you start taking, whatever your number is, start taking vitamin D today, tomorrow, and you'll start to notice and for your son too, really important. A lot of docs won't even test kids because they don't find it valid for young children.
Yeah.
I've tested kids in my office and their vitamin D was a 6, and you cannot survive without vitamin D. So if it needs to be up over 75, can you only imagine how sick those people are if they're a 6,
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
And it's more than just being sick. If you're low on vitamin D, you feel like crap in general.
Mhm.
Headaches,
Mhm. Fatigue.
lethargic, yeah,
Yep.
all of that stuff.
Mhm.
Uncle Al says I need to eat more kimchi. Well, I
Well,
I don't disagree
fermented.
with you.
Mhm. Yep, some fermentation. But yeah, and all of this, the gunk up here, that's all gut. So, yeah. You had said it's probably because my gut isn't good. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. I don't I'll probably end up getting gross, but I don't really care because we're all adults here, and if you don't like it, I'm sorry.
Well,
But
and somebody else is probably experiencing whatever it is you're gonna say. So how about
but
that?
okay, so I went to the doctor and a gut specialist, and they never tested me. They just said, "Bam, you have IBS." And then they wanted me to do a poop test at home and send it away. I'm not doing that. I didn't do it.
Oh, you
Um,
should.
I don't want to.
Why not?
Well,
You
maybe.
should totally do that. It's a great way. I actually do urine. I test gut by urine.
Oh, well, that's better.
Yeah, so it is a little easier. I know. I don't really
Can
think
you
I wanna
imagine
go
being a
digging through my
mail
poop
carrier?
either.
I
What's
can't
that?
imagine. Can you imagine being a mail carrier? You know what it is because it's in a cup thingy that's specific. Like you
Yeah.
can't mistake that. Like you
Well,
know
no,
what it
you
is.
wrap it up. You get a yeah. I have a 5-year-old boy that I'm working with, and he came in tonight. We're gonna send off his pee to check his gut.
Mhm.
And he was like, I don't want people looking at my pee. We're like, it's okay, buddy. It's okay. And then his mom goes, you can laugh when the mail carrier comes and picks it up. He's like, oh, okay, that sounds so yeah. Yeah. So that's how we entertain kids is tell them that other people are gonna be holding on to their pee.
Yeah. Well, right after I had my son, my gut health had been horrific. I had a lot of emergency things happen to me after I had my son. And one of them is I had to have bagged antibiotics, which was like a really high potent antibiotic. And ever since
Were you
then,
strep B positive
no,
when you
I
had
had
him?
to have the doctor, the doctor messed up and I had to have an emergency DNC after I had a C-section.
Wow. Wow.
So I had to go to the doctor and he had to fix me.
Those two
And
things don't
I
match.
I had what was called I had an infection in my uterus, basically.
Okay.
Endometriitis is what they call
Okay.
it. And so I had to have a bag of antibiotics. And when I did that, ever since then, I had noticed, and even after my C-section, I noticed that my stomach was so screwed up. And one time I ate corn at a family event and like had to go to the emergency room,
Wow.
which was not like me before. Like I could always eat that kind of stuff. It wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
And since then I had been diagnosed with IBS, but I don't really think that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I'm just like, I don't feel like that's what it is. I'm not going to get tested for it because I don't feel like that's what it is. I think I just had a high potent antibiotic that screwed up my stomach and I get massive amounts of heartburn all the time. It's a little bit better now, but I used to like not want to leave the house. And I'm going to share a little detail. I used to have to carry a bag and toilet paper around with me everywhere I go just in
Oh,
case.
that's
I'm not kidding.
awful.
It's
Oh my God,
horrible.
it's horrible.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so
But you can't be on antibiotics like that. That's the thing. It's
yeah.
how did you get that infection to begin with? What is that?
The doctor left the some of the placenta inside of me during the DNC or during the C-section.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah. And
That's awesome.
it was horrible.
Yeah.
I from November until January 1st, I almost died.
Wow.
Yeah,
Holy
that's
moly.
how long I had afterbirth issues. So
Were you prior to getting pregnant, were you fine? Were you healthy or had you had some issues?
no, I was fine.
You were totally fine. Yeah. So there, case in point,
Mhm.
let's just go ahead and give you all these antibiotics and well, and the reason I asked if you were strep B positive is because I was, and if you're strep B positive, they give you antibiotics during the birth process. So that's
Oh,
your
okay.
child's first introduction
Yeah.
to, they're born with a sterile gut. And maybe they get, if you've been doing your job, maybe they come out with a handful of good bacteria in there, but then the doctors are like, no, you're strep B positive. Let's give you antibiotics during the birth process. That wipes baby out. That wipes mom out. And, because again, it's intravenous and it's like, it's just going, coursing through your blood. It's taking everything with it. It's terrible.
No, you guys, antibiotics are really cool. They do everything they're supposed to do. They have healed people beyond great measures. However, it's not something to be taken lightly. Like if you have a sniffle, you don't go and get an antibiotic because
Exactly.
it's for emergency purposes. You should be
Mhm.
on your deathbed or have a really bad infection or something like that in order to get antibiotics. It's not to be taken lightly because it can really screw you up.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too. And yes, you're right. We have to preface this by saying, you know, A, this is not medical advice, and B, if there's an emergency, that's what they're for.
Right.
And when I look at there's a movie called the 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 business of what is it? The business of birth, the business of, I'll figure it out. Great documentary. You guys all need to watch that because it and I experienced a lot of that. I was 37 when I got pregnant. So I was considered a geriatric pregnancy, and I said, whoa, this is the complete bastardization of one of the most beautiful things that could ever happen, because they wanted to give me every intervention under the sun. And I'm like, I'm a healthy individual, like 37 years old. I'm not dead. I'm not 60, and I'm going to have a healthy baby. And at one point they said, well, you should do where they stick the needle in your belly. And they said, because they found something on the ultrasound in her brain and her kidney, and that was a sign of Down syndrome. And if I did the amniocentesis is what it is. And if I did the amniocentesis, then we'd know for sure. And then that way I could abort the pregnancy. And I'm like, it was a horrible experience. And it was one experience like that.
Did you end up
After,
getting that done? Because that
no,
test in general is extremely dangerous.
I know. No, I said, no. I said, I'm taking my chances. And I never had another ultrasound. I never had, and but then they're required to test you for strep B, which is basically a yeast infection. And okay, boys, cover your ears. But when you're pregnant, it's nearly impossible to not feel like you don't have a yeast infection. Like,
Yeah, because you got a lot of things going on down there.
yeah,
Just in
yeah.
general. Yeah.
So, and
Weird,
so then
probably weird stuff that women have never even felt before either. They're
right,
always questioning,
right.
"What is this?" Yeah.
Yeah. And 40% of women test positive for strep B. And when they do, they're required to give you an IV antibiotic during birth. And I don't even know where that came from, but it's been going on for many years. And I started thinking, oh, follow the money, just follow the freaking money on that.
Okay, I don't really understand either. Like, what would happen if somebody gave birth and they didn't have that with strep B? They didn't have an antibiotic. What would that do?
They're concerned if you are positive and you give birth vaginally, they're like, oh, but the baby could get strep then. It's like, well, the baby's supposed to come through the birth canal and get all of the mother's bacteria, because that's how we start life. The other thing it does is it squeezes all the fluid out of the baby, so that now they don't have all of that excess fluid, and they're not having to, their bodies don't have to struggle to get rid of it. So, that's really where, and we see, especially if it's a C-section, those kids are more sick because they didn't experience those two things right from the get-go. They didn't get your vaginal bacteria on there. That's really important bacteria for us to start life with. So we do see higher incidences of kids with illnesses and learning issues and things like that in C-section babies.
I didn't know that. That's really good to know.
Yeah. Let's see. Let's try to tell Kenny to get over here.
Hello, everybody, and hello, everybody over in Facebook land. I see you making comments. And if you can jump on over to our YouTube.
Yeah.
That's where the party's at.
I shared it over to one of my groups over there. So
Cool.
And thank you to Jay Dixon, the business of being born. And that link is there. So I would highly recommend you check that out, because it's not normal what they do with pregnancy. They've medicalized pregnancy. And if I was told, because I said, well, I don't want to get the strep B test because I didn't want the antibiotics. And they said, well, your child is a ward of the state. And so when it's born, if you decline the test, your child's a ward of the state. They will automatically take your baby from you and do whatever they need to do to it to make sure that it's healthy. And then I said, well, what if I test positive and I deny the antibiotics? And they said, same thing. They'll take your baby from, they're threatening me at 37 years old. They're going to take my baby because I am not lining up for this ridiculous medical intervention.
Yeah.
So this is why you have got to advocate for yourself. You have to know this information so that you don't line up and just, yeah, there's a time and place for those things. Pregnancy is not one of them. Like, let pregnancy be beautiful, in my opinion.
And not that we're steering away from the topic, guys, but this has a lot to do with gut health.
Yeah.
Because this is where it starts. Right from the get-go. And this is your baby's health, your health. It goes right from the beginning. So
when that baby's born with that sterile gut, and then if it comes through the vaginal canal, now it's bathed in bacteria and it gets in the baby's mouth, and then that's the first colonization of the gut. So when you don't have that, you come out and now you have to rely on outside forces. And a lot of women aren't aware of, if you have to have a C-section, and first of all, there's far too many C-sections. That's already been proven that's a lot of them become scheduled, or a lot of women,
because I didn't have a choice.
Yeah,
I had gestational diabetes.
Right.
So
they'll just automatically say that
I didn't have a choice.
Yeah. And you probably did, but it's just a different route and a different, doctor or midwife or, and yeah, it's a higher risk for sure. That would be a case, I would say, absolutely, you need to be in a hospital to make sure that that's managed. So yeah, so then it's like, okay, well, then you need to be taught when you're in the hospital, okay, well, how did I get this? Now that I know I have it, what do I do with it? How do I protect my baby since it didn't get all the bacteria from, going through the birth canal? So there's a lot that goes on that those questions aren't answered. And then you're just sent home with your baby and it's colicky and it has ear infections and it reflux and doesn't sleep, or if you're nursing, it won't latch. I mean, so much of what we are supposed to be doing comes right from that first experience.
Yeah, for sure. Oh yeah,
Sorry,
I see you,
I went off on that.
I know you're on the other side. I see you there.
Penny, come to this side. What are you doing over there? We can see you. Yeah.
I would like to thank you guys for coming in tonight. If we get to 50 people, I'm going to give away our Grow Big TV magnet. So, share us out. Let people know about we're live right now. That is the big one, because YouTube likes to tell people that we're not live, or doesn't.
Oh, really?
They just don't notify people at all.
Oh, that's lovely. Okay.
Yeah. So just let people know and share us out.
I didn't know that.
Uncle Al, you're 100% right on the kimchi. It's a little zesty. But yeah, you're 100% right. And kimchi and sauerkraut and pickles. All this, anything that can be fermented is exceptionally good for your gut health. So if you eat a lot of sauerkraut, whatever, that's really good for you. Cabbage in general is really good for you. It's an anti-inflammatory, and it's really good for your health. So if you can incorporate that in your diet, go for it.
Well, yeah. And cabbage, any of the brassicas. And so you guys are doing cauliflower this week, right?
Yep.
And cauliflower, I talked about when you did broccoli a couple weeks ago, that cauliflower has the same compound in it, sulforaphane. And so sulforaphane is actually highly anti-inflammatory. It's an excellent antioxidant. It helps to balance the gut. And then with all the fiber in those vegetables, that alone, those act as prebiotics to help feed the good gut bacteria. So, it's great all the way around.
Whew, sorry guys, I just had a coughing spell. Give me a minute.
You cough, I'll go. Okay, I'll keep going. So yeah, and also, like, stay tuned here, because these guys are doing, I love what they're doing every week, bringing up, talking about a different vegetable, how to grow it, all the different varieties, and then I'm coming in and I'm giving the health benefits behind it. So yeah, so this week is cauliflower. So a little bit of insight. It's going to sound a little similar to broccoli, but it's such an important compound for your health that it is worth repeating for sure.
Yeah, and so Thursday we're gonna be doing cauliflower, talking about it, and we look forward to seeing you guys then. It's gonna be a great show.
I'm
Sorry,
excited.
guys, man, this is horrible. All right, so I know we were going to talk about chestnuts and the benefits of chestnuts, but just in general, there's a lot of things throughout this time that I've learned about gut health that I didn't really know before. And not that I didn't want to know, I just was uneducated about it because I didn't, but it wasn't till I started having all these gut problems that I started doing more and more research about it. So one thing that I have learned throughout this time is to drink bitters, which is supposed to be really, really good for you. And by the way, Baker Creek right now has bitter seeds. So if you want to grow that and make your own tea, you go right ahead and do so.
I didn't know that was a grow thing. I thought
Yeah.
that was like a fermenting thing.
It's a tea, and it's really good for your gut health and diabetes. And
I've got 4 bottles of bitters up there. So I put them in, like, I'm drinking sparkling spring water right now. And I didn't put anything in it tonight, but sometimes I'll put a really high quality vinegar in there, or I'll throw bitters in there.
Nice.
Helps tremendously.
Hey, Prepper 101. Thanks, guys, for coming in. I appreciate you.
Yes, eat more chestnuts, Uncle Al. We're going to get to that, but I think it was good that we started off on that foot, because it just started off organically, and I do think it's really important for people to understand that this stuff goes back really far, and you get to a point where you're an adult, and like Corky, she had a medical issue that required something that caused severe damage, and if the medical community could bridge the gap and say, okay, now you need to go see a functional nutritionist, or if they had functional nutritionists on staff that they could provide you, okay, listen, you're close to death, and if we don't do this, then you're going to die. However, we're going to bring you back, but these are things you have to do to make sure that it doesn't have a long-term impact. So that's really where I wish the medical community would really get on board, is helping people with, I saw somebody said they've had trouble ever since they had the gallbladder taken out. Okay, when you get the gallbladder taken out, nobody says to you, okay, now let's help you with why the gallbladder went bad to begin with, because that was years of, it could have been poor diet, it could have been medications, it could have been those medical interventions. So I think it's good that we started off, because again, when you look at your kids and they're like, how can my kid be sick? Why is my kid always sick? This 5-year-old that came in today, constantly sick. So we're going to get him better, but between chiropractic care and then nutritional interventions, it's going to be, I said 6 months to a year to get this back on deck. So, and so, we don't want to ignore those things when we're young, and we don't want to ignore them when they come about as adults. So, and the frustrating part is that a lot of people, it takes the average, it's 10 years before someone gets to a place where they find an answer for what they have going on when it comes to their gut health.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably an older statistic, because that information is much more commonly available now. But that's, as you said, Corky, it's like, how long did it take you in the search for information?
Right, and I didn't have those issues right after I had my gallbladder taken out. Um, I didn't have I mean, though, now that I think about it, that was where my love for green beans came in, and I questioned myself as to what happened because I used to hate green beans, and, I started craving them and stuff, and I'm like, "What in the hell is wrong with me?" Because I hated them before, and I did some research and, found out that, you're when you remove your gallbladder, you're missing vitamin K, and green beans are filled with vitamin K. So if you are craving something unusual that you've never craved before, like greens or beans or something out of the ordinary, look it up and figure out why am I craving this because it's something your body is lacking.
Yeah, that was when I was pregnant, I was craving, I had to have a liverwurst sandwich loaded with mayo. And I had to
Okay.
have one every day. I was like, I don't know what it was. I had to eat liver. And I was getting acupuncture at the time. And my acupuncturist, he goes, let me go check that. And he comes back and he goes, oh, the baby's liver is developing. So that was I was like eating tons of liver. And that was my body intuitively saying to me, you need liver to support this baby's growth of the liver, right?
Wow.
So, yeah, pretty amazing, right? It does the same does not go for donuts though, okay? Craving donuts does not.
That's just something that you're just I'm craving, like the baby wants something sweet or
Right, right.
something.
And
But
no, Kenny, I'm not putting Miracle Whip on it.
I like Miracle Whip.
Oh my god. So we asked that question at the end of every show, Miracle Whip or mayonnaise, because Kenny and I have an argument over that. So he's the Miracle Whip fanatic and I'm the mayo fanatic.
No,
So
I'm not a fanatic in either or. Like I can eat either or. It's not a problem. But I did grow up on Miracle Whip. Like my mom used it
so did
in
I, yeah.
salads and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Uncle
fun.
Al says chestnut donuts, and that sounds amazing. I have chestnut flour, I have roasted chestnut flour, I've got sweet chestnut flour that came from Italy. I was down at when Bill comes on, I was down. They also do pawpaws, so I was down watching them process pawpaws, and they had a big thing of chestnut flour that came in from it was from the Italian chestnuts, and it was like sugar. I mean, it was so sweet. And I made a bread, and kind of like a banana bread, but I put pawpaw puree in it, and I put chopped chestnuts in it. It
Ooh,
was so good. It was absolutely, and of course, super healthy. So, um, yeah, I got to make some chestnut I wonder if you can make crepes out of the chestnut flour.
I'm
Would
sure you
they? Yeah, I'm thinking they would have to, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
funny. Do you make crepes a lot?
no, when I was growing up, we made them all the time.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do too.
and I've been craving them. I have a friend of mine that does. She's got a channel on Instagram called Return to the Table, and her whole thing is to help people cook family meals and have family dinners again. And she says, she's like, why aren't French people fat? And they drink wine and they eat bread and they eat cheese and they eat meat. And it's because it's such a different quality of food over there. So she sources all this stuff. And I took a class and I did a buckwheat pancake, buckwheat crepes. I think it
Wow.
was probably about a year ago, maybe a couple years ago, and made just a huge stack of them. And then you throw them in the freezer and they freeze beautifully. And oh my I'm gonna have to make crepes tomorrow, you guys. I can't. I'm like, and I'm gonna use that chestnut flour. This
That's
is gonna be
funny.
amazing.
That sounds good. It's been a long time since I made anything like that.
So do
And
you how do you make yours?
just flour, milk.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And
You have
then
a special pan?
you're supposed well, yeah, I kind of do. You're supposed to use like I don't know, a really flat pan, but I
Yeah.
guess it doesn't matter. My mom would always use a nonstick skillet to make
Mhm.
them. So you
Mhm.
could make them very large if you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I've done them on cast iron before, so
Yeah, I have a cast iron crepe pan. So, and yeah, to the just quick side note, I had an aunt, a great aunt, and she baked bread. I don't ever remember not seeing her bake bread, but she would bake the, the Syrian bread, the thicker loaves, and then she would bake the really thin, like it was paper thin, and she would toss it like pizza. And she'd pull that out of the oven, and it was in her basement with a dirt floor, like it was crazy. Um, and she'd hand each of us this huge thing, and we'd run upstairs and we'd either slather it with peanut butter or just butter and roll it up like a cigar. And oh my God, it was so good.
So good.
Who doesn't love fresh bread? I mean, come on.
That's
So
right.
good. Oh, Jay pulled up chestnut flour crepes.
Ooh,
Nice.
thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay. Doing that tomorrow. Wickershire Project says Miracle Whip is an abomination.
Sorry.
It's
Sorry,
funny
Billy.
because it's really like these two camps.
See, I grew up with a really prominent German family, and we never really called them crepes. We called them balachingas.
Oh,
And
okay.
so
Is that
then
a French word?
it's not a French word. I think it's actually German for pancake.
Oh, okay.
And it's so funny. I have friends from all over the world. I had a friend from Hungary come and visit me. And I told her, I said, we'll make balachingas. And she's like, what is that?
Oh,
She calls it balacinta or something like that.
oh,
So
that's funny.
it was very
Yeah.
strange. But
When-
anyway, we always stuffed them with jelly. We never put
Okay.
anything else in them. Like,
Yeah.
some people put, I don't know, like pudding in them or something like that. And we never did anything like that. We'd always just have like strawberry jelly, or sometimes would have orange, or would get like different jellies and put them in the center.
I'm a butter and cinnamon sugar girl on everything. Oh my
Cinnamon
God.
sugar.
So yeah, I mean, we always had a container of cinnamon sugar on the table growing up, So good. So good.
Yes, marmalade. I couldn't think of the name of it.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
It's not really my go-to. It was something my grandma always liked. She was like, "Oh, marmalade." And it must be like, I don't know. I don't know if it's
I
an old
feel like
person
that's that generation
thing.
thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Marmalade was not good. I mean,
I don't
it
think
was
so.
just sugar and orange peels. Like, what?
That's funny.
Yeah, the FDA does allow chemicals and ingredients in our foods. So we have, in fact, this little boy tonight, we're testing him for glyphosate Roundup, because the Roundup just doesn't go away. And you can, like, I don't spray my lawn, but it's everywhere. It is in our food supply.
You can't avoid it.
You cannot avoid it. So now it's a matter of how toxic are you in glyphosate? And this poor little boy is just sick and sick and sick. So we got to test to make sure he's okay. And I think that's an important piece. If you're having health challenges and you can't get your arms around it, you might want to look at glyphosate poisoning. And that would be, something where you find somebody who can chelate. So an IV chelation to pull that out of the blood is really going to be your best way to get rid of it. You can try diatomaceous earth, charcoal, orally. You can try those kinds of things. But I think probably getting your an IV chelator might be the fastest way to get rid of it.
Well, Mike, how old are you? If you like marmalade, I need to know your age.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, yeah.
I'm teasing.
Yeah. Oh no, Tammy, there is a test. Yeah, so we're doing urine for Roundup. I don't know if there's a blood test, but we're doing a urine test for it. Yeah. I use Mosaic Diagnostics is the lab that I use. He's 53. Oh, okay. You must be an old soul, Mike. Mike is not 92.
You didn't really have to tell us your age, but thank you. I'm so glad you like marmalade. That's funny. On
an English muffin with lots of butter. Yeah. It's about it was the only way I could gag down the marmalade was, yeah, lots of butter. Lots of butter.
Happy Max said that you're 92 and you're lying.
I had soil. Oh, yeah, I'm talking about testing your health, testing your body. I don't know how to test the soil for glyphosate, but I would imagine you could probably send it to MSU. You can send water and soil to any extension university. So I'm just guessing, but that might be an option. So, and shame on them. It's interesting because Bill and I were talking today about soil and the chestnuts and how people, so let's say you have a farm and it's a monocrop, and then they sell it, and then they build houses, and then people move in, and then they want to grow grass, and they want to go grow trees, and they want to grow vegetation, and everything dies because that earth has been so adulterated with Roundup and all the other chemicals. So I was like, God, I never really thought about that. And so we were talking about, like, the pH of soil and how do you bring that back. And on my Sunday Night Live, I had that holistic dentist on, Dr. Joel Gould, and he said sulfur helps to liberate the nitrogen so that we get nitrogen. Nitric oxide is incredibly healthy for blood flow, gut health, all of that. And then the sulfur itself helps to replenish the mucous membrane. And so he was saying that's the same thing in gardening. You put sulfur to bring the pH down to actually liberate the nitrogen. And I was like, yeah, like that's so cool, right? So,
Yeah.
which again is so cool that we're having this conversation, because when you talk about growing things, growing you or growing anything in the dirt, it's all very similar.
Yeah. It's really kind of scary how much stuff that people put in the soil and they don't think about it.
Yeah.
Like, I have neighbors all around me that just saturate their soil and their lawns. I mean, I don't give a crap if I have the perfect lawn. I mean, I do have grass. I do not spray my grass.
Same.
I think my yard looks pretty dang good for not spraying my grass. But my neighbors are just, I mean, think about it though. Like, I mean, they at least have 3 or 4 acres, and all around me. And my mom and I together, we have 5. So, I mean, if you're spraying all that constantly with lawn feed and everything else, I mean, it's just getting in the water. It's getting everywhere, and everywhere around here has well water.
So have you had your well water tested?
I haven't yet. Now I'm worried.
Yeah. And I think that's also something that I did a segment on water many months ago, because well water can be very much contaminated. But I think a lot of people think, oh, it's a well, it's fine. But there was I think I started talking about that because there was the story of the Wolverine shoe company over on the west side of Michigan, and that they had contaminated everybody's wells because they threw out the treated suede and leather scraps, and they were dumping it into the river, and these scraps were just lining the river. So for months and years, they were just leaching all these chemicals into the water, and people were getting cancer, dying at young ages.
How old was this company?
The Wolverine is
was
the
this
Wolverine shoe company. Yeah.
recent
So
thing?
they were around for a really long time.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. You can look up the story. It was on M Live, and it's fascinating, and it'll really piss you off because you're like, I can't believe that they knowingly dumped all this stuff in the water. So, and those are the forever chemicals, right? So, and again, just looping it back to gut health, is if you're exposing yourself to any of the forever chemicals. And I mean, that means like you buy a pair of shoes and you go outside and you take the spray, the waterproofing spray, that's a forever chemical. And what do you do when you go outside and you do that? You immediately go because you can't help but to breathe it in. So the stuff is really, really toxic. And Teflon, you mentioned Teflon earlier. Yeah. Yeah, Wickershire. Yes, they knew. They totally knew what they were doing. Yep. Yeah. So
Yeah, that's crazy. Wolverine was around
we'll
and
ask Bill about the glyphosate. He might know. And Bill, if you do know, you could drop it in here too. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Jay. Jay's going back and finding all of these things that I already talked about. That's great. I appreciate that very much.
that's because Jay is awesome.
That's awesome. Yes. I need Jay to come over and moderate my channel. Love it.
So anybody out there, are you having gut health? And what exactly is your gut health problem? Do you have ulcers? What is your gut health issue? Oh no, we don't feed the grass anything. If you do, it grows, and yeah, then you have to mow it. That's right. Hey, robot gopher. Thanks for coming in. Hello, Wanda. I know you said something about ulcers earlier, so I'm just curious. I do not have ulcers, but yeah, I have some major stomach issues going on, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah. And it's, it starts at the stomach. So if you have ulcers, that's where you have to be really careful about how you treat that. Like most people that I work with, it's as simple as giving them acid betaine, which is basically hydrochloric acid. So lifting getting the acid levels up, lowering the pH. So but then more acid in the stomach so that it can kill off the bacteria. And then it also triggers the valves in the gut to open and close. So when people have reflux of any kind, if the valve isn't closing, it's because there's not enough acid, because there's no trigger to the brain that says we have to shut this valve and then churn the food and then put it through the rest of the system. So when you start to think about it like that, you're like, oh, that makes way more sense. Rather than just continuing to take more and more acid blockers, that valve is never going to close. And now you're not digesting food. And now you break the mesh of the gut, and you get now what's called leaky gut, and you start filtering out all the food particles into your bloodstream. And then that is where we get autoimmune issues and chronic illnesses. So IBS, all of the, fibromyalgia, all of those things. Now, when you have an ulcer, so that's pretty much the garden variety, right? It's super easy. Acid, bug killers, gut restoration, use aloe, deglycerized licorice. There's, a handful of things that we use as a cascade for that. But if you have an ulcer, gosh, you have an ulcer. And sometimes that's H. pylori, and we have to come in and we have to kill the H. pylori. You might have parasites. I mean, I saw somebody asked a question way early on about parasites, and I think we were still on birthing and pooping in a bucket. So, but yeah, if we do, that's so that is just a deeper dive, and that really, I always say too, if you're struggling, don't guess, just test, because I want people to get a lot better, a lot faster, instead of let's try this. Testing's going to cost you anywhere from $300 to $600, depending on what we run. I mean, I could run $1,000 worth of tests, but I don't generally need to. Somewhere in the ballpark of $300 to $600 gives me everything I need to know where to get you rolling and not guessing. And because you've done enough guessing, you've been all over Google looking for answers. So let's just stop that and just get you well,
Yeah. Well, you guys, I have been suffering from acid reflux ever since I was a kid. I've had nothing but acid reflux problems.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, the doctor prescribed me Zantac. So I was on that for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. They're not long-term medications. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's just so many, I just have so many gut issues I've had my entire life. So,
so then you did. So I had asked you if you had any issues before.
I thought you meant IBS issues.
No, no, but that's all related, right? Yeah. and that's really common. I want people to really hear that, is that it's really common to not connect those dots, to separate the things, because what medicine has allowed us to do is um, talk about ourselves in pieces and parts, and we're not pieces and parts, right? You're a gallbladder, you're a stomach, you're a reflux, you're an IBS. That's not, like, you are a whole system. And those are signs that you've been having things going on your whole life, which is why you probably had gestational diabetes. And then it's probably why you had the issues, after that. Um, so don't take that lightly. Like, really understand that you're not a piece and part. And if you have to go to 6 different doctors for 6 different things, that's a problem, right? So find
Mhm.
somebody who's going to be able to look at you holistically and look at the root. There is a root cause to all of that.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't have to treat your lack of gallbladder and your reflux and your IBS. I know it's not IBS, but you know what I mean? You shouldn't have to
Yeah. I
separate
mean,
that out.
that's what they say it is, but when you go to the doctor, she gives you a speech about what IBS is, and it's such a general term.
Yeah.
Like, you could just
Your
say
bowel is
that's a
angry.
minor issue, and she's gonna call it IBS. There's no actual test for it, like, really. They just generalize it under IBS. So you had diarrhea for a couple weeks. Oh, you must have IBS.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really not the case.
And they don't know that there is a test for it. There's multiple tests for it. They don't know how to treat it. There's, it's really sad. So, but that's why there's more and more functional medicine doctors like myself. I mean, I've been practicing for 25 years, but there's more and more people who are getting certified in functional medicine training, more and more people coming on board to just to help people from a root cause perspective.
Yeah.
Jay said, pulled up this. The Wolverine has been plagued by controversy since the PFAS containing waste from its old Rockford, Michigan tannery was found to have badly contaminated the local community's water supply. And they were all wells. So checking your water for sure. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to just go back in time with you, and start putting you know, you're a puzzle now, right? And we can
Yeah.
start taking all those pieces and, creating the picture of what needs to be done. And then your son, the same thing. He's the same puzzle. He's not a piece and part. He's not, I'm not going to say he's not autistic, whatever. They gave him a diagnosis, but what are all of the things that need to be lined up to help reduce make his life better, improve his quality of life?
Yeah.
I know so many people that went the holistic route when they got that diagnosis, and you give them such better quality of life. You take their pain away, you improve their digestion, you improve the impulse behavior, you give them an opportunity to learn, you give them an opportunity to be functioning members of society, go to school. But you have to know the right things to do, and the right places, and things, especially when you have those kinds of things going on.
Well, I hope you guys this is all soaking in for you. There's so many things I want to talk about, but I don't want to talk about them because I don't want people to think that I'm against going to the doctor, or I'm against medicines, because I'm not. Medicines are there for a purpose. They are good. Some medicines are really good for you to help you. But I think some medicines are just offered to you, just, oh, here, take this, like candy or
Yeah.
something.
Well, and that's the sad part, is that yeah, if you are in an emergency, you are going to want emergency medicine. But most of medicine is, they don't have any other tools in their toolbox. And I hear it all the time. Why doesn't my doctor know this? Why doesn't my doctor tell me this? Why doesn't my doctor test for this? Because they don't know. And kudos to the doctors who when I do send my patients back to their primary care physician and they say, yeah, Dr. Ruffin did this for me and I no longer have digestive issues or my sinus issues went away or cured my gut, whatever it is. And the doctor's like, wait, what is she doing? And they pay attention. I have had the reverse where they tell their patients, that's hogwash. Don't do that. Go back on the medication, because they also don't, when you think about the money you spend on a medical education, and then all of a sudden you find out 10, 20, 30 years later that it's doing nothing but making the majority of people sick.
Yeah.
And they've given you no other tools. Like that's kind of, some people just want to bury their head in the sand and go, I can't, I don't even want to deal with that. Because it's a whole nother education. Trust me, I've been doing it, you know? I mean,
I have somebody in our basement right now who is your friend. I've never met him before. Is his name just Bill or is it Dr. Bill?
No, it's just Bill. Yes.
Just Bill? Okay, yeah. Well, here he is. Hi.
There's Bill. Bill's our chestnut guy.
Yes. Well, hello, Corky. Hello, Dr. Paula. Thank you for having me this evening. And yes, chestnuts. I'm glad to see so many enthusiastic people out there that enjoy chestnuts.
Yeah, so I've been out to Bill's farm. I have another video that I did out on his farm interviewing him, and it was just beautiful. We talked about chestnuts and pawpaws and all the other nuts and perennial crops that he grows, black walnut. And and then there's just exciting things going on in the chestnut world. I know that sounds, people are like, exciting things in chestnuts. So I thought we'd bring Bill on. And of course, when we look at how healthy chestnuts are, what a great combination. So Bill's the guy. So he started Bill, were you one of the founding members of Chestnut Growers, Inc.?
Yes. We do have a marketing co-op here in Michigan that markets chestnuts. And Michigan actually has more chestnut growers, more farms than any other state in the nation, more than California. The co-op and the co-op has marketed in the past well over 200,000 pounds of chestnuts.
Oh, wow.
So it's doing quite well. It's organized just like a marketing co-op, so very similar to the Florida citrus growers, obviously on a much smaller scale. But we have about 40 members. And the co-op has done a very good job of marketing, bringing these chestnuts in. We have a central location. They're sorted, they're washed, graded, shipped out. So you'll find them in Myers. You'll find a lot of different grocery stores. In the co-op, we have a presence online, so you can order online also.
And you guys are taking those. I think when I first met Roger, who's another one of the founding members, and he had told me that you guys have this chestnut flour, and I was like, what? And he brought me chestnut chips. And then now you're like peeling and freezing them, blister packing those. So talk a little bit about how you guys started coming up with those options in order to not just have it be chestnuts roasting on an open fire at Christmas.
Well, chestnuts are actually a major crop around the world in many places. China produces, they're obviously the largest producer and the largest consumer of chestnuts. And all throughout Europe, a lot of different chestnut products are made. So we've traveled over there to a number of different meetings and learned about chestnut flour, the puree, the creme de marron, and the candies.
Wait, chestnut puree? Glacés. How did I miss chestnut puree?
Yeah, it's very well known, and you can buy it in grocery stores over there. And
over there, not here. I was like,
you can get it here at specialty stores.
Okay,
but it's all imported. That was one item we have talked about that to make, but that takes a bit of investment in chestnuts and for the equipment. The equipment's all available. Italy makes a great deal of equipment. We have in Michigan State University has a chestnut peeler from Boema Company over in Italy, a line that we peel the chestnuts. So that type of equipment is available because that is a industry in a lot of these other countries. Italy, Spain, Portugal, all grow chestnuts. Turkey grows chestnuts. So they're grown around the world now in South America. Chile has got quite a bit of chestnut growing, and certainly in New Zealand and Australia and in Japan. So it is a major crop in many places of the world, just not here in the United States.
Huh. So how long does it take to grow like a chestnut tree to the point where they actually produce chestnuts?
If you have a good grafted tree, it will actually start to bear probably in that, a lot of times in 4 or 5 years, sometimes even sooner. We generally say for a positive cash flow, you're probably looking in more of that 8 to 10 years to get enough production where you'll have a positive cash flow. But certainly for the homeowner, for a backyard tree, you'll get production on a good tree relatively quickly.
Awesome. What are the health benefits then of chestnuts? Obviously it's another alternative flour, which is way better than what most are. So what are the health benefits to chestnuts?
Well, I'll certainly let Dr. Paula answer that. But chestnuts are more like a cereal that grows on a tree, more like a potato.
Okay.
If you've had chestnuts, the entire inside is the nut meat, and cooked, it's more like the consistency of a potato, a little more like a sweet potato, actually.
Oh, wow.
And it'll have that sweetness to it. And certainly roasting is one way of utilizing it, but you can use soups, put it in soups. It's made into a lot of different types of products. You go through Italy, you can find everything from pasta and breads and desserts. You'll find beers, you'll find liqueurs. It's utilized in a lot of different ways. And certainly the health benefits are very good. And so
That's
I'll let
interesting.
Dr. Paula.
I've never had a chestnut
answer that.
before. I don't think.
You haven't?
Oh,
No.
chestnuts roasting on the open fire?
I mean, I've
Yeah.
heard of it, and yeah, it's in a song, but I just
Yes.
never
Well, you're like
had it.
most Americans. That you're familiar with it through the song.
Yeah.
And never
Yeah.
actually have had one. But they are very good and very useful in a lot of different dishes. It makes an excellent soup. Chestnut soup is a great soup, particularly in the wintertime.
And what was that? So when I was down and you guys were processing the pawpaws and that chestnut flour came in, and was that from Italy? Because that was so I have the roasted chestnut flour, and I think I have plain chestnut flour, and then Roger gave me a little bag of that, and it was so sweet. So I was really intrigued about the different types of flour. Like why was that so sweet? And that was just straight chestnut flour. There was nothing added to it.
Right. We make a roasted chestnut flour. It's kind of a specialty, and actually, sort of the only ones in the world making that. We had some flour coming from Chile, and that was a good quality flour. And we have certainly made flour with some of our own chestnuts that we grow also. Our problem is that we can't get enough production. We don't have enough farms out there. We don't have enough trees growing, and we don't have enough chestnuts production to meet demand. We import probably 90% of the chestnuts consumed in this country from overseas, mostly European. So there's a great potential to grow our own chestnuts here and expand production, expand acreage, and farmers can make a good living off. You don't have to have a huge planting of chestnuts. Most chestnuts plantations are probably in that 5 to 10 acres or less. So there's no really large, huge planting of chestnuts like you would find almonds or pistachios or walnuts out west.
Interesting.
Is that so? Yeah. So if people are going to grow chestnuts and they don't have a lot of land, how many trees could they grow? You know, what's the smallest space that somebody could grow and maybe have enough in 8 to 10 years to have for like to make some money to have for production?
It's around 80 trees per acre. You can figure something along that line. So however you want to approach that. And there's a lot of resources out there. Michigan State University, go to msu.edu and type in chestnuts. A lot of information there on that. And the growing conditions and the site preparation, air drainage, soil pH, soil types. And there's a lot of good organizations out there too. There's the Michigan Fruit and Nut Growers. There's the Northern Nut Growers. There's certainly the Chestnut, Michigan Midwest Chestnut Producers Council. There's a lot of organizations out there. So I would advise anybody who's really thinking about that seriously for some type of income to get your ducks in a row and explore this. And some of these organizations are very good. At Michigan State University, the partnership with them in the chestnut industry has proven absolutely invaluable. We would not have an industry here growing chestnut, but if it were not for Michigan State University and all the research and help that they have given us.
Yeah, because you guys got the grant for the machinery, right? Or was that the
Yes.
Am I getting that mixed up?
No, that was another grant. But yes, over the years, partnering with Michigan State University, been a lot of grants have been received for equipment, for research, for trees. So whenever you go to another state and another nut grower meeting, when you tell them you're from Michigan, they always say, well, you're very lucky. You got Michigan State University there behind you. I said, yes, we know that and do consider ourselves very fortunate. And that's why we have this chestnut industry in the state.
So they haven't worked with other chestnut growers around the country then? Or was that just something that you guys went and started working with them to try to propagate this crop? And they were like, yeah, let's do it.
Well, there's definitely some outreach, and there's some other places around, like Missouri University. Missouri has been doing some chestnut work, and Rutgers, and some of the other ones. Michigan State University, probably the main one, and of course, Land Grant College. It is, trying to support the residents of the state and the farmers of the state. That's sort of their guideline on that. But certainly the information that they have published is available. And I have gone with a number of the researchers around to different meetings, and they'll certainly have presented papers, all over this country and quite a bit of the world.
Interesting.
And how long ago did you guys start start CGI?
We started that about 20 years ago.
Okay. So pretty young, really, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It is. And it growing pains certainly, but no, it has done very well and very well for the members. As I said, there's about 40 members. We have quite a few other people that are starting to grow and have planted chestnuts. To be a member of the co-op, you have to contribute to the co-op. So people don't join the co-op until they actually start having some production.
Okay.
The Midwest Chestnut Producers Council, that's sort of the educational arm, and so the membership in that, there's a lot of growers in there that are starting to grow, starting to plant, and a lot of information. We have annual meetings in Michigan State University. A lot of updates from engineering, a lot of entomology. So a lot of current research. And that's why I would certainly, anybody who's interested in that, join these organizations, come to some of the meetings, and you will find out there is a lot of information out there to grow this crop. And anytime we try to get a potential grower out there, we want to make sure that they're successful. So it's like, what is your growing conditions? What type of soils, what type of slope, where are you, what zone, what USDA zone. Then you can make some recommendations on growing, whether the Chinese cultivars, the Europeans, or the European Japanese hybrids. So like any other crop, a number of different things to consider to make certain that you can have some success.
Is one chestnut tree better than the other?
That's a very good question. It's a little bit because there are so many different cultivars and different growing conditions, but it's a little bit like asking a group of 10 wine tasters what's their favorite wine. Everybody will have their favorite. These are their favorite cultivars, the one that does best for them, and you have certainly different variations in growing conditions and climates, not only around the state of Michigan, but certainly all over the country. So in some places, other particular cultivars will do much better than in other places. Missouri can certainly grow some cultivars that don't do very well for us. And so that was some of the research course of Michigan State University, to try to find some of the cultivars, some of the varieties that grow best here in Michigan that will perform and farmers can have success with.
Interesting.
So is CGI just Michigan farmers then? Or is that?
It is. Well, at this point it is, though it does not have to be. We did have a member from Ohio. They retired when production, but no, it can be here from the Midwest. So we only have one receiving station. So the thing is, if you're going to bring your chestnuts into CGI, the receiving station is in Clarksville, which is halfway between Lansing and Grand Rapids. It's a Michigan State University field station.
Oh.
So if you're going to grow out of state in Ohio, and there's co-ops in Ohio and a number of growers in Ohio and all over, it's a long ways to bring your chestnuts because we don't have multiple receiving stations. It's just that one central one. So probably the largest reason is that it's a bit of a ways to drive. So if you are going to do that, you would want to make sure that you're bringing a large quantity at
Yeah. So yeah, that's really interesting. I did not know that. I was thinking it was just the Michigan farmers. So
Yeah.
and I love, I've always loved chestnuts since I was a little girl. And Corky, we have to get you some chestnuts.
Yeah, I've never had them before. So
yeah, they're interesting because they, I would say their consistency is almost like they're a little starchy, I guess. Right? Would you say, Bill? They're a little starchy, but they're sweet.
a bit like a potato. How
a
potato
bit like but
will sweeten in time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same way with the chestnuts. Those starches, those carbohydrates start changing to sugar. So they age a little bit. They'll certainly get much sweeter.
And they're so good. And they, I would say they're a little oily too. So there's some good healthy fats in there.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And then one of the things too, which, they pack such a punch nutritionally. So they're high in folate, which folate is brain and nervous system. We all need folate. And of course, when women are pregnant, they are told immediately to increase their folate levels. Well, they really should be having high levels of folate for many, many months prior to getting pregnant, to make sure that they have sufficient folate to grow life. And so that's really one of the key nutrients. And then as we get older, folate's really important for brain health. So, this would be the fact that you can now get some kind of chestnut, whether it's the whole chestnut, whether it's the flour, the chips, or if you can get chestnut in some variety year round, means that you now have access to this incredibly nutrient dense crop. One of the things too is that it has a couple of so it has lutein in it, and I think is it zeaxanthin. There's a couple of compounds in there that are excellent for eye health. So what's really important to know about that is that when you eat those compounds, when you eat foods that have those compounds, it actually helps protect your eyes from the blue lights, right? So I'm staring into a little LED right now, which is horrible for me. So I probably should have downed some chestnuts before I did this, but and you're sitting in the dark. I think you've got the right idea. Yeah. So, yeah, the dog's barking. Paula's like, Bentley says hi. Bentley's saying hi to everybody. So when you look at, to me, I always think, what are foods that you can be eating that are nutrient dense? And a lot of people have problems with when they're, I can't control my appetite, or I'm starving. It's probably because you're not getting foods that have enough nutrients in them. And chestnuts are also that food that feels like you're not supposed to eat it. Like they have this like decadence to them. For me personally, I'm like, oh my gosh. And so if you can if you can get them, and they even sell them at Costco, and I don't know who does that one, Bill, but they sell them pre-shelled in a bag, and you can just rip it open and snack right from the bag. And it's just what's that?
Probably Italy. Italy will do a number of that.
Yeah.
Spain does some of that, but probably most of that coming in this country is from Italy.
And they were the big ones.
The big Italian type ones.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of times we have pick your own folks that come out here, and we grow both Chinese and European. And it's kind of interesting because the Asians, the Chinese, we get some Koreans and Japanese, they always want the Chinese. They want the little ones. And then when the Europeans come out, they want more of the Italian, the larger ones. We'll get Bosnians, Romanians, certainly a lot of Italians from all over. And it's part of their culture. So they are very pleased, and I'm very happy to find that chestnuts growing here in Michigan, and some places they can go out and pick them. So we have a lot of pickers that come in the fall to pick chestnuts, and it's part of their culture. If you go over to Europe and walk down the streets in the fall and by a lot of the stores in which they'll have big window displays, here in this country, in the fall, you'll see pumpkins in windows, and you'll see Indian corn, and over there you will see chestnuts, and you'll see chestnut burrs and chestnut products. And it doesn't make any difference whether you're going past a pharmacy or a hardware or a lingerie store. There'll be chestnuts in there in the display window.
Lingerie and chestnuts.
Yes, I'm not sure how that mixes, but they'll be getting a display store window.
Yeah, it's and that's the other thing too, is like they're very filling. When I was growing up, my mom, the only time I ate chestnuts was at Thanksgiving, and my mom would get chestnuts and she'd roast them and put them in bread dressing. That was the only time we ever ate them. Right. So I think they've gone from this, they've gone from this thing that had a very specific use at a very specific time, and now the possibilities are endless with it.
Do they lose any of their health benefits or properties once they're roasted?
That's a very good question. And, they certainly gather a lot of flavor and taste, anyways.
That's all you.
I,
That's
I
all
would
we
not.
need.
Yeah, I would not think they would lose very much at all, if any.
Yeah, I mean, do normal nuts do? I mean, I don't know. Do cashews and stuff do once they're roasted? Do peanuts and stuff?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good
I'm
idea.
not
I
sure.
would
I know
assume
it.
not, but I
They can
don't
become
know.
less oily. Like, you know, when you roast a nut, you're going to take some of the oil out, which the oils have major benefit, but I don't know if they would necessarily lose all of the other health benefits. Hard to say. This is a good
Yeah,
Yeah,
question.
and
because
chestnuts.
I know some things once you cook them down, they lose. They don't
Mhm,
lose all their benefits, but they lose a big portion of them.
mhm.
So
Well, chestnuts are mostly water. They're well over 50% water, unlike other nuts. They're more like a potato
yeah,
or cereal that grows on the trees.
interesting.
And there are certain, you go to like China, particularly in the rural areas, they will depend on that in mountainous areas as a major crop. They'll harvest that and they'll certainly dry that down and rehydrate it and utilize that as a major food source. Around the world, they'll do that. A lot of times in Europe, because it's a little more affluent, it's looked more as a treat, as something not so much as you're going to eat that every day, as a wonderful little treat now and then.
I
And
got a question about the nut in general because I know, like with almonds, they need bees to survive. Basically, does chestnuts have the same issues as almonds do, as far as getting pollinated?
and pollination. They're mostly wind pollinized. It's sort of
Oh,
like
okay.
a birch because of the catkins. Now there is a little controversy. Some people think they're more insect pollinized, but it's not so much with the honeybee. It'll be other insects, and they produce a lot of pollen. If you go out into a chestnut orchard, and they blossom around the 4th of July, they have a very distinctive aroma. So if you're walking along and you smell that, you'll know there's a chestnut tree around someplace.
Okay.
And it really fills the air. I've got neighbors now, quarter, half a mile away, and what is that smell? What is that? And
Is
because
it the
the
flowers?
chestnuts produce the flowers, the chestnut flowers, the
Wow.
catkins. It
So really,
just fills the air.
chestnut flower would be a better alternative to almond flour, for instance, because almonds are harder to grow. Almonds are harder to produce. So if chestnuts are just easily pollinated by the wind, I mean, that's a huge
Yeah.
thing.
Yes, you don't have to bring in a lot of the European honeybees.
Yeah, and that'd be a
Colonized
great
by it.
alternative flour. That's amazing.
Yep. There was a major industry here in this country for chestnuts, for the American chestnut. That's a story all unto itself. But that there was, with the introduction of the chestnut blight around the beginning of the previous century, about 1903, the chestnut blight came into this country, and in about 40 years, pretty much wiped out the American chestnut. At that time, it was about one of every 5 trees east of the Mississippi River was American chestnuts. And so you read accounts when our forebears came to this country, that game was so abundant. Well, it was because of the American chestnut. It produced an annual crop of nuts, a very, very healthy nuts. Oaks and a lot of other walnuts, a lot of times are biennial bears. They bear every other year, and so you can get populations of wildlife build up and crash and build up and crash. Now with the American chestnut, or certainly the European and the Chinese, they bear every year. There'll be a little fluctuation, but you always will get a crop. So it supported a lot of wildlife, kept that wildlife very healthy because it was such a nutritious nut. So we were probably about 5 generations removed from people really knowing what the chestnut is. But at one time back in the 1800s, it was a major industry, and you would find chestnuts in all the cities. They would bring them in and sell them in the stores or roast them on the street corners. But
So
because of the
is there
blight,
a bug or something that goes after these chestnut trees that causes them
well,
to?
of the American chestnut, it's a fungus that came
Oh,
in. Now, because it evolved, it probably came in with the Chinese chestnut. So that tree, the Chinese evolved with that blight, so it is resistant or almost immune to that blight. But when it came to this country, the American chestnut, which is a different species, had never seen that blight, and it went right through them. A little bit like when the Europeans brought smallpox to this country, and particularly down through Mexico and South America, and it just devastated the native population because they'd never seen smallpox, and it was the same with the American chestnut.
very interesting.
So then how did they get the other varieties here to, I guess, be
Oh, the
able to
other
start
species?
propagating? Yeah.
Okay, well, of course, that's probably one of the reasons that the blight got here. But active sign wood types of exchange and cultivars to bring in, and now we bring them in, of course, under quarantine, and then once they're out of quarantine, of course, and proven safe, can graft those different cultivars. And some, climates around the world, some of the cultivars will do very well here in Michigan, and others will do well more in like an Oregon or California situation, particularly like some of the Southern European types. The Moroni is one of those. That particular one does not do too well here in Michigan, but some of the French hybrids certainly do very well and produce a very large nut and a little more disease resistant than some of the ones that we're growing, particularly to some of the soil-borne diseases like Phytophthora and others.
So do you find it's better to do you have just a small variety that you're wanting to propagate rather than try to get multiple different varieties? Just focus on a few to really get to the industry, to get to market?
Well, some of the ones that the state has grown and has proven to do well here, some of the French hybrids like Precocious Magoul, Marigold, the Marsol, there's a series of these, and they do well here. They're hardy, and they produce a very good tasting nut. And the trial plantings have shown that, and there's a few of those, few growers trying those. So those are the ones that we're looking at, trying to propagate those and get some more trees online to increase acreage and increase the industry.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating to think that, I'm like, hey, I know the guy that's like propagating a freaking industry. Like,
I think chestnuts are really cool if that's the case.
Yeah.
They're easy to pollinate and stuff like that. I think they're pretty awesome. I think more people need to get into them. More people need to start growing these trees. It's nice to have alternative food sources out there versus the mainstream ones. I know almonds are pretty mainstream, but they require a lot to grow. So if you can grow chestnuts, why not?
Oh, absolutely. And they give a good return. Chestnuts will probably produce in about 10 years or so, someplace in that, you should be getting 3 to 4, maybe 5,000 pounds per acre. We've had growers get upwards in a good year of 6,000 pounds per acre. The co-op has been paying as a wholesale base price between that $2 and $3 a pound. They've been increasing over the years, and so that's a fairly good return on a small acreage basis for a farmer. It just takes a little longer to get into that than, of course, growing an annual crop.
Yeah.
Well, and
but
what
once
you
you're
were
there,
saying when when I came out to visit your farm, and you were talking about the black walnut that that your dad planted as part of, that was supposed to be the for the next generation, right? So what can you do now? So he planted that, and that clearly was going to be for the next generation. But I think chestnuts are that crop that people can plant now for to actually earn some money on as well, right? To have a legacy that's going to start to bring income for, and it's not going to have to be 50 years before they see anything growing, right?
Right. We have a lot of new members at all our meetings we've been having for all these different groups. It's been very encouraging to see a lot of new members, particularly younger members in their 20s and 30s. Because at that point in time, you certainly have ample time to get an orchard up and going and be profitable. So it's more and more people are getting interested in it. And one of the reasons that we're working hard on propagation of trees is that really right now what is limiting the industry is the availability of good quality trees. I mean, if you look at apples or look at almonds, those are produced in the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of trees by large major nurseries. The nurseries we've talked to in the past, the large ones, because the chestnuts are too small. They don't want to. We had originally started with a nursery out in California. It was producing the one cultivar that a lot of our growers grow, which is colossal, but it was a very small portion of their business. They said they only produced probably between 10 to 15,000 trees a year. And that was basically, they had somebody there that was really interested in it. But they produced a lot of the other trees, pistachios and walnuts, and then produced them by the hundreds of thousands. And so they just decided that it was too small to bother with, so they just quit propagating and quit growing chestnuts. So there isn't any major nursery that's growing those in huge quantities that would create an industry. So that's why we're trying to look at different methods and different ways of trying to get some more trees out there so that the industry can grow and prosper.
So do people then order trees direct from you? Do you guys ship all over the country, or where do they?
We do. There's several other nurseries. Sorry. We'll just take that off. Take that offline. Here in the office.
Was that an actual phone? Was that an actual phone?
That was an actual phone.
I haven't heard one of that in a long time.
Was that a rotary dial phone, Bill?
Nice try, Paula. Yeah, she came out and asked, do we have to ride horses back in the field? I said, no, we can take a golf.
A carriage. We needed a horse and carriage to
right,
get back here. Yeah.
Right.
He actually has motorized vehicles on the farm.
Yes, door plumbing, believe it or not.
That's funny. I did just drop in the chat. So I because where I met Bill was at I belong to Michigan Fruit and Nut Growers Association, which Bill, I think, is you're a founding member of that group as well, right?
No, but my father was.
Oh, okay. Well,
because that was founded back in the early 50s.
Was it really? I didn't know it had been around that long.
Yes.
Okay, did any of you guys out there have any questions for Bill as far as chestnuts are concerned, or any of the health benefits for Dr. Paula?
Yeah, I love that they can actually protect you from the blue light, which we're exposed to all day long with all the UV light and our phones. Think about how much you're on the phone. That anytime you can have food that is protective, neuroprotective like that, it's amazing.
Yeah, I had no idea. That's
amazing. Yeah, really, really cool. So, I had seen I saw some Somebody was saying that they're over in the southwest corner of Michigan, and they have the biggest chestnut orchard over there. Do you know who that is?
We have several growers over in that area,
Mm-hmm.
over there on the west side of the state.
Yeah, I knew there was a few.
And yeah, there's one fellow who's been planting. I think he has now around 25 or 30 acres, and they're coming online now.
We have a really, really big question. Kenny Wood says, can you really roast them on an open fire?
Yes, you can.
can.
And that's traditional. And I'll have to send you pictures of them roasting on an open fire. But you can boil them, you can microwave them, and so you can cook them in a lot of different ways. But one thing about chestnuts, you will read, put chestnuts, you can roast them in the microwave, leave one or two that you don't scar. You have to, anytime you're going to roast a chestnut, you got to make a little split in the shell, simply because there's a lot of water in there. When that heats up, that creates steam, and you have to allow that steam to escape, or it will explode. And the old song that said chestnuts pop, pop, popping by the fire. Well, they pop. They do more than pop. They actually explode. So if you start roasting them in the microwave, make sure that you do put a little X, or a lot of times what we call a little smile, a little slit, so that that steam can escape.
Yeah.
And as the chestnut is cooking.
Wickshire
Learn the hard way.
Wickshire basically had a question. It said, I heard of almond milk. Is there a chestnut nut milk? You can make a milk out of any nut.
Mm-hmm.
You can make it out of almonds. You can make it out of cashews, any of those nuts.
And I'll bet
because chestnuts are you can do it. Chestnuts are higher in water content than other nuts. They don't have, they're more carbohydrates in there, so they are a little bit more like a potato. So it's not quite as easy to do that as you would other types of nuts, or to make a nut butter. You can certainly make a puree out of them, but yeah, you can, but it's not quite as easy.
When somebody was asking earlier, and it looks like this question or comment has made it back around about easy to peel, because I know also in the past when I've bought them and tried to roast them, there's an inner, so there's the shell, and then there's an inner like a
pedicle.
Skin. Pedicle, yeah. And
Pedicle.
so what makes that difficult to get off, or what makes it easier to get off of there?
A lot of times roasting them will expand that and make that pedicle come off a lot easier. One of the easiest ways to do this is to cut your chestnuts right in half, sort of along the equator line, and place them upside down on a paper plate and put them into the microwave. Now, that's not as aromatic as roasting on the open fire, but it's quick and it's easy. And generally, after about a minute or two in the microwave, the shell pedicle will just lift right off. I've got an 8-year-old granddaughter, and she loves chestnuts. And whenever she comes out, and particularly during the season when we're picking up chestnuts, she always, can we roast some chestnuts, Grandpa? So we'll get them and roast them in the microwave, because it's quick and easy, and they're very tasty and nutritious that way also.
Yeah, when you got kids that'll just gobble them up like that, that's get them eating that healthy crop early,
Yeah.
and valuing that. She went and I love that from a legacy perspective, is that she's out there and she's picking and she's preparing and she's learning how to grow it, and then what to do when she eats it, and that connection, I think, with kids to the earth. Well, I mean, that was you took over your dad's farm, and your son farms with you, and what is it, five generations now? I lost count. 7?
I'm the 5th generation. The grandkids will be the 7th generation. Yes.
Yeah. I love that. It's amazing.
And
awesome.
My son is doing a very good job with with the daughter, my granddaughter, because this fall now he was not only teaching the value of chestnut and how good they are, and nutritious and how tasty, basically tasty, is that paying her to go out and pick up chestnuts so we would have them up here to sell. So she's going out picking chestnuts, realizing that her labor, her work, she can make money, then she'll have money to be able to go out and buy what she wants. So it's a good learning process.
Do a lot of the places have a you pick business, or is that something unique to you?
No, there's a number of them that do have that. Some of our orchards are certainly just further out, away from urban centers, and then some people just simply don't want to bother with that. I never planned on having so much pick your own. We always had some come in and pick your own, but then the rest we would sell through the co-op. Well, COVID hit, and all of a sudden, everybody wanted to get outside. So that fall, people started showing up from all over. I mean, we had folks coming in from Kentucky, from Minnesota to pick chestnuts, and a lot, of course, Detroit and Chicago, and a lot of around, Lansing and Michigan State University. But it was all of a sudden they just started showing up, and ever since then, we sell probably 90% for a pick your own. It's surprising, and the only thing we ever do for advertising is simply post on Facebook when they're ripe, and evidently by word of mouth. And people have been coming in, and on the weekends it gets very, very busy around here.
Kathleen Moran asked, are there are the health benefits similar with the different varieties?
Yes, I'm not sure of any studies that would have, compared Chinese to European to Americans and or the Japanese, but I would think they would all be pretty similar. I mean, it would be a little bit like I would think apples. They probably will vary a little bit, and they certainly will vary in taste and somewhat. But I would think they would be very similar. But I'm not really aware of any studies that have ever tried to compare the nutritional value of a Chinese chestnut and the European chestnut.
Interesting.
Scrolling through for questions here.
Yeah, that's what I was doing too.
Yeah. So did you say there's big? So Wanda asked, I've never seen any as big as a tangerine. Where can I get some of those? The actual nut isn't that big, is it? Do you?
No.
Yeah.
No, about the largest
right?
largest you'll have. We generally say so many per pound. So once you start getting to the really large chestnuts, you're generally looking at about 15 to 20 per pound. Occasionally you'll get a few. You're looking at almost an ounce for a really large chestnut.
15 to 20 chestnuts per pound?
Per pound. That's a really, really large one.
Okay.
A lot of them will be more in that probably 25 to 40 per pound. And because of the cultural differences in the way they were raised, we'll have, as I was saying, the Asians like the smaller ones because that's what they grew up with, and the Europeans like the larger ones, the two different species. Generally, the European is a little larger than the Chinese. Nutrition, I don't know, but I'm assuming they're basically the same. And once they're cooked, the flavor is the same on those also.
Jay was saying smoke with the leftover chestnut peels. I never thought about that. Have you ever tried that? Smoking with it?
We visited several different co-ops, grower co-ops over there in Europe, and particularly in France. And there was one co-op that was they would dry the chestnuts down, and then they would kind of shuck them, so you'd have the dry nut, which you can then grind into flour. And what they would do once they got the shell off, then for the next batch of chestnuts, they would burn those shells as a fuel. So they were utilizing it all total. But yeah, the shells will, once they're dried down, they certainly will burn.
Yeah. I bet you it would smell good too.
Yes.
Oh, delicious.
And I'm thinking chestnut smoked meat. Sounds
Ooh.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kenny's still hung up on the chestnut lingerie, the market for a chestnut lingerie.
Well, it was sort of like the pumpkin in the hardware store.
Yeah.
Buy the hardware, not the pumpkin.
That's funny.
And I don't know if I've ever seen them eat chestnuts with Miracle Whip, but
Oh no!
Bringing back the Miracle Whip. Yeah.
You know what the worst part about for me is, I don't know when this ever came into play, but they used to make Jello molds, Jello whatever, with
Oh, yeah.
cottage cheese.
yes.
Ugh.
Oh.
So disgusting! Jello cottage cheese. Oh, can't even.
But you
imagine.
got to use lime Jello.
Oh,
That was one of the things
yeah. Yeah.
on church dinners as a kid. Yeah, there'd always be a lot of that.
Oh,
Church
gross.
Shawnee said chestnut is the only nut with vitamin C with a question mark. I don't know. They are really high in vitamin C. I don't know if it's the only nut with vitamin C.
Yeah,
And they're loaded
I don't. Yeah.
with
not sure.
nutrients.
Very healthy nut.
I don't know.
I mean, they support different populations around the world, and obviously they support a tremendous amount of wildlife. Because the
now I'm
wildlife
curious. I'm gonna
really love them. And as a grower, that's
Well, and
one
that's
of the
when-
things that you'll have to solve, is keeping the wildlife out of your chestnut orchard.
Well, is that why so the chickapins, right? So do you plant those personally around the chestnut orchard to keep the wildlife away from the chestnuts?
No, but to basically, the chickapin is a small chestnut, it's a true chestnut, but they're very tiny. And there's one nut per bird. And generally with regular chestnuts, there are 3 nuts per bird. No, the Allegheny chickapin, they grow that so we can have a seed source. But that's very good for wildlife also. And you'll find that down to Appalachia a lot, up in the mountains. It's just a different species of chestnut. There are a number of different species of chestnuts around the world. We generally focus on, the Chinese, the European, and the Japanese and hybrids thereof. But there are certainly other species of them.
I'm sorry. I was looking at all the different nuts. I'm typing them in the side chat. There's quite a few that have vitamin C, and some of them I was kind of surprised. So,
What recipes does everyone have? So CGI, which I think Jay posted the link for that. You guys have recipes on the website, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's recipes there, and there's also recipes. There'll be certainly recipes on another little a company that's working with chestnuts is Treeborn,
okay.
and that recipes on there, and the site's under construction, but soon that'll be up with shopping baskets, so you'll be able to get flour right there and order it online.
Okay, so that's not live yet.
No,
Okay.
probably the beginning of the first of the year.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, everything takes time.
Oh, there you go.
why. They put it through seed. They put in seeds in with this too, but hazelnut, pistachios, walnuts, pecans. I love pine nuts. Those are my favorites. I don't
Yeah.
know why I love them so much. I just do.
So
Back in
good.
April, Brazil, and cashews all have vitamin C in them, guys.
They need to add chestnut to that.
Right.
Well,
Hazelnuts are very good.
chestnut,
We grow
I can have
hazelnuts also.
yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, and seeds themselves are so high in nutrients, and I wonder too. So a lot of people can't do seeds because the lectins in them. So now I'm wondering, and I didn't go deeper. I should have gone deeper on the chestnut. Is because some of those seeds, the only way people can eat them is if they're sprouted. But I'm wondering if chestnuts are different.
Well, because you're not eating the shell
Hmm.
on chestnuts, where
Okay.
the seeds you are. So
Yeah.
and I think that's the higher source of it there. So you're just eating the inside meat itself, which is a lot more like a potato than a walnut or an almond.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So coconut, chestnut, macadamia, pecans, pistachios, walnuts, flax, hemp, pumpkin, and chia are lowest in lectins. So yeah. So people who would have any kind of issue with nuts would probably be more likely to be able to eat the chestnuts.
People
Yeah.
have allergies to nuts. Chestnut isn't a true nut. There's, technically more of a fruit inside. So people have allergies to peanuts or nuts generally have no problem with chestnuts whatsoever because they don't contain those same compounds and they aren't a true nut,
This makes me
even
want to
though
go out
they
and
say chestnuts.
like cashews and nuts and all that. Macadamia.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
I'm so hungry for nuts right now.
Well, and like you don't see cashew flour. Like I think the only flour you find is almond flour. I've made walnut, like a walnut meal out of black walnut and regular walnut for like pumpkin pie. But the chestnut flour, it's like true flour. It's not like, it's not a meal like almonds and walnuts would make. So if you really want to cook something and you want flour, a gluten-free flour, you're going to get what you want from the cashew flour. And it's so lovely. Now I really want to. I'm making crepes tomorrow. I'm making chestnut crepes.
This is so horrible, but I love. Okay, so I love shrimp. So my mom and I have been obsessed with Panda Express because they have candied walnut shrimp.
Oh God, it's so good. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. The first time I had it, I was like, what is this? This is magnificent. My mom felt the same way. And she's like, we have to go back. Like 2 days later, we went back.
it's like candy for dinner.
Oh,
it's so yeah. I haven't had that in years.
Well, one of the things with chestnuts, of course, the flour is very fine. A little coarser grind on that, and it's a lot like panko. And so it makes a very good coating for fish, for any types of meat to fry up.
Oh, I think you did give me it. Didn't you give me a bag of that? I think I used it on. Oh, I did. I used it on walleye, and it was outstanding. Okay. Oh my gosh! Yeah. Well, the chestnut flour I use a lot on fish. So I did the flour on the fish, and then egg, and then did the crumbs.
Right.
And then pan fried it, and oh my God, it was so good. But I use that chestnut flour to pan fry fish a lot, and it like deepens that sweetness of the flour, and it just it's amazing. Or I'll like pan sear chicken thighs, and I'll use the chestnut flour in that too, and it's amazing. And again, it's gluten free, right? So you're if you want to fry something and, just a little bit of coconut oil and you've got a really healthy meal.
Yeah. I like walleye. I don't like perch there, Kenny.
Oh my God. I love perch. How do you not like perch?
I don't. I think it's because it's always served with the back skin on it or something. It grosses me out.
Okay. I'm going to say ocean perch versus lake perch. Because those are two. Ocean perch is disgusting, and it always has that skin on it.
Yeah.
And lake perch is like light and flaky and sweet and just
very tasty. Very good.
Yeah.
Perch.
Yeah. And if you go into a restaurant, you better ask, if it says perch on the menu, you better ask, is that lake or ocean? Because a lot of times it's ocean perch. And oftentimes they will tell you it's lake perch because they don't know, and you'll get ocean perch. It looks different. It tastes different. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
like junk fish.
I don't like fish with the back skins on them.
Yeah.
It grosses me out.
Yeah. Although like salmon skin's super healthy for you too. So a lot of good omegas in that.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't eat that either.
You're like, no
I
thanks.
like salmon. I'm just not going to eat that
I
skin.
know.
No way.
Yeah, walleye perch is the best. Yeah. Yeah, lake perch and walleye. That's it. Yeah, so the versatility of what you guys have been able to do, I think is really, really special because I think it just kicks the butt of all the other nuts out there. You've got the nutritional value, and then it's gluten-free, which of course so many people have gluten intolerances these days, and it's hard to find something that matches flour, like regular, wheat flour. So I think it does that. You can like I made that bread when I took it to the nut growers meeting a couple months ago, and that was outstanding. So it was more like it was like a banana bread. So and it baked. I did not know the difference that it wasn't regular flour. So it baked up really nicely. So you don't have to worry
It has
about
that
allergies.
natural sweetness.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they say that's one of the secrets of some of the French pastries is using that chestnut flour to give that little subtle sweetness to it.
Oh, really?
Nice.
What about in Italy? Do they have all of the different? Oh, you said that at the beginning, right? They have all the different types of. They have the flour and the chips and the.
There's a tremendous amount of different products that they make over there. Yeah, everything from beer and liqueurs to pasta and breads and different desserts and cakes. They use the chestnut in many different things because, well, it's part of their culture and they've had it for hundreds and hundreds of years. The tree is native over there. The Romans certainly loved the chestnut and took that wherever they conquered the lands. And so when you drive through the countryside, whether it's Italy or Spain or Portugal, you drive here and you see a lot of oak and maple trees. There you see a lot of chestnuts. They're just native. And so the mountains will be just covered with chestnut trees. We were over there this summer in Spain at a meeting, and it happened to be there at the time that the chestnuts were in bloom. And so you could drive through the mountains and you could look across the valleys a number of miles away, and you'd see just big areas that were white because the chestnut blooms generally the end of June into July. And they're just everywhere.
Who's making beer
so they're
with
used to it.
chestnuts now? Isn't that is that local, or are you guys sending that south?
No, we have a brewer down in I believe it's Colombia. My son has done more of that than I have, and the brewery down in Ann Arbor. Mine's a terrible thing to waste. I can't think of the name of that brewery right now.
Not Jolly Pumpkin.
Yes,
Jolly Pumpkin. Okay.
Yes, they'll make a chestnut beer. They make a sour chestnut beer also, but they'll make several different chestnut beers. And we've got some local smaller breweries around that will make a chestnut beer, and certainly it's very common over there in Europe to find that. I mean, that's not even so much a specialty beer. You can find that in a lot of different stores.
Sounds like it'd be good to wash down some walnut shrimp.
There you go. Yes. And the chestnut liqueurs are very good over there also.
Oh God, that sounds amazing too.
Sounds amazing.
I'm getting thirsty.
I'm excited because literally just down the street, somebody's opening up a meadery. So they're going to be making mead.
A meadery? Oh, mead.
Yeah,
mead. I was like, a meadery.
Sorry, and I have a cold too, so that's like,
okay.
That sounds weird. But no, mead.
I was like, we call those butcher shops here,
Not
but okay.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited. They haven't quite opened yet, but it's in an old church, which makes it super cool. I can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to visit when we come down.
Yeah, I can't wait. Plus, I really like mead, so it'd be great.
I don't know that I've
Yeah.
had mead.
It's kind of like wine, but it's way stronger, and they don't use all of the components
Honey
to make
based there,
wine.
there, and there.
It's usually made of fermented honey and stuff like that.
Mm, okay, I could do that.
Yeah.
Well, I'll come down. We'll go have mead, and I'll bring you some chestnuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
I don't know. You won't have any in the shell, though, will you, Bill?
We'll have them for a while.
Oh, okay. Oh, you
So,
still have.
yeah,
So they haven't all been processed right now.
We always try to keep some certainly through the holidays, so you can have some chestnuts roasting. So yeah, haven't got a lot. Probably got a couple 100 pounds left.
All right, you guys, it's getting close to 9 o'clock. I'm going to end the chat. I'm going to end the stream. Plus, my cold is killing me.
I just saw you sneezing your butt off there.
Oh, it's horrible. It's all of a sudden it comes on and my eyes start watering. Oh,
I'm going to drop Bill's website here real quick before you end that. And so, yeah, if anybody's interested, and Bill has all kinds of fruit trees as well. So fruit and nut trees.
Nice.
So you can go on and check out his website and then reach out to them to get your products if you're looking at growing for next year. And obviously he's a wealth of knowledge. So if you have any questions, just reach out directly. You can call that rotary phone in the office there. And
yeah, just call that phone right there.
That's right. And I did drop, so I put the links for Michigan fruit and nut growers and Ohio nut growers. And those are also, that's how I met Bill. And that's how I got interested in growing, perennial crops, fruit, nut trees, was by going to these meetings 4 times a year in these groups. And we have private Facebook pages that are just also another great way to get your questions answered. So.
Yep. And if you call, and if I don't return that call immediately, it's because I'm waiting for that rotary phone to die.
Yeah.
Or he's on a live.
Just don't have a lot of zeros in your phone number.
That's funny.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, Corky. It's been so fun. It's always great when we can sit and chat.
I love having you as my co-host. It's great.
Awesome.
And thank you, Corky. Thank you, Corky, for having me.
Oh, well, thank you for coming up. Thank you for teaching us about walnuts. Like, I had no idea. Chestnuts, not walnuts. Ooh, chestnuts. Thank you. Sorry, I have a cold, so I'm like all over the place. But no, there's some things I had no idea about, and the pollination and stuff like that. Like, this could be a tree that we definitely need to mass produce. Like, make sure that everybody has some, because there's some nut trees out there that are risking endangered territories because of the pollination and stuff like that. So I think this is really, really super fascinating. So
and how easy they are to crack open too, right? So it's not like black walnut or regular walnut, not any of the hard shells. I mean, these are like easy peasy for people, right? Because we get lazy.
You just cut them with a knife. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. And so thank you so much for coming up and sharing your knowledge with us. It's really appreciated. And thank you once again, Dr. Paula. I really appreciate
you so much.
We love you as always.
I'm so honored. I'm so happy to be here. So happy to be here anytime with you guys.
Well, thank you guys for bearing with me and my cold and everything else. And Joe will be back on Tuesday or Thursday. Well, Thursday with me. I'm traveling back in time.
I need to go get some rest.
And we will be on talking about cauliflower. We'll have a giveaway, and we'll be talking about the benefits of cauliflower and stuff like that, which I'm really excited. Maybe I will even get some cauliflower seeds. So maybe I will plant some this year. I usually am horrible at brassicas, but I will give it a whirl. And I love each and every one of you. And we will see you Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. And y'all have a good night.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.
Thanks. Good night.
Night.
I almost left the studio instead of ending the stream. Good night. Oh, Lord.